What is up, geeks and geekettes? It's another episode of the Countdown City Geekcast. My name is Ted, aka Steady. Joining me as always, the man behind the magic, Joe Garcia.
Yeah, thanks for joining us again, everybody. Glad to be here. Can't wait to dive into some Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania talk.
Absolutely. And joining us once again, you know him as Retro Rays. Good on, brother.
What's going on, guys? Looking forward to talking that and Last of Us, if possible.
Absolutely. You don't have to pause the video yet if you haven't seen The Last of Us episode 6. We're gonna get into that in just a few minutes. Well, actually, we're gonna get to that into that in the second half of our episode. But a little movie
But
dropped
first,
this weekend. A little movie dropped this weekend, and by little I mean like ant size. Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania opened worldwide this past weekend, and we did a non-spoiler review. If you haven't seen it, go ahead and check it out on our Facebook page or our YouTube channel if you want to watch that. But tonight we are going to get into our spoilery talk. So, in just a second here, we're going to be talking all about spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, go ahead and pause this video. Be sure to stop by after you've seen it and hear what we got to say. And we want to hear what you guys got to say. So if you have seen Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, be sure to give us your thoughts on it. Did you like it? Did you hate it? What were some of your favorite moments? What are your theories going forward? And what is your Geekcast rating? Because we're going to give that at the end of this spoilery review. If you're in the chat, say what's up. David Lozano's already there saying, "What up, Ted, Joe, and Ray?"
what's
And
up,
he
David?
What's
says,
going on,
"I
sir?
don't." He says, "I think I won the bet for the box office." So you were $1 off. There is somebody who got a little closer than you. He's got two thumbs, and he's this guy. But we'll talk about that in a second. Brett's in the chat saying, "Sup, y'all? What's going on,
What's up,
Brett?
Brett?
Good to see you, man. Good to see you." And once again, we're gonna start out with the Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania spoiler review, and I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on it as well. We did do our non-spoiler talk. I just mentioned that a second ago, so we'll kind of skip behind our initial reaction pieces that we normally do, and we'll just jump right into it. So, Joe, Ray, we're gonna go ahead and get into the nitty gritty of it all. And I want to first know what your favorite parts of the film were. Joe, we'll start with you, sir. What did you like about it?
I thought it was a more. I liked it because it was a more serious film that didn't go over well with a lot of other Ant-Man fans because it was lacking some of the quirkiness, but there were some jokes there that were funny. I like the portrayal of Kang. I did like Michelle Pfeiffer's character. I thought they were the MVPs, like I had said in our other review. They carried the movie. They did their performances were spectacular. Another highlight of the film was seeing Modoc's bare ass on the screen for everybody to see. it was it was quite funny. Um, and just overall, just seeing these characters that everybody has grown enamored with, as far as like the buildup of Kang the Conqueror, and then finally seeing Jonathan Majors portray Kang on the silver screen was something that fans had been anticipating for quite some time. So it was great to see him on the screen. Overall, I mean, I appreciated the film for what it was. It was a little bit more of a serious film, and some of the highlights were you get to see these characters that were once whirly and quirky situations and just enjoying everything and being funny, and comedy was the center of these Ant-Man movies, kind of take a little bit of a turn here. So it puts them in real dire situations. So that was kind of refreshing for me, and I enjoyed the film for that.
Absolutely. The tonality, definitely for me at least, matched the tone of Thor Love and Thunder. Kind of a bit. And even in some parts like Multiverse of Madness, because that was directed by Sam Raimi. So you kind of get that Sam Raimi sort of humor in there from time to time. And I know for a lot of people, Thor Love and Thunder might have been too comedic or too silly at times. But I, for one, like enjoyed and was entertained by it from like start to finish. So this one kind of felt that same way to me in that regard. It's definitely this sort of big space opera. Everyone's kind of made similar points, calling it a very Star Warsian movie, and I can see in a lot of a few places where they might think that. There's even some subplots where you might say, "Oh, that kind of feels like what was that final movie? I always forget what it's called. The Rise of no Rise of Skywalker. Is that the last one? That is right."
Yeah.
So there's some parts that might feel a little bit like Rise of Skywalker, and I'm not trying to make too many similarities, but you definitely kind of get that those sort of feelings, those similar vibes from the two films. Not to say that they're pulling from it. I think that they went into this movie with um a very lofty goal to make this big sort of space war movie, but in the quantum realm. And of course, there's going to be some similarities there. All in all, I also say it was entertaining. I enjoyed it. We'll probably actually we don't need to say our Geekcast rating because we all kind of said it in our non-spoiler review. We all gave it a 4 out of 5. Easiest average to figure out because we all pretty much said the same thing and we all gave it the same score. It wasn't on the top of our Marvel list, but it definitely was above par, and I appreciated it. I think as a moviegoer, this would have hit harder for me if I wasn't as familiar with these characters. If I didn't know, anything about Kang, if I didn't know, the twist where Michelle Pfeiffer's character is helping him in the past, but then coming to realize like, oh, he's like this horrible person who's conquered multiple worlds and timelines and caused death and destruction everywhere he's gone. I think it hits a little harder if you don't see that twist coming. But for us, for people who might be familiar with this character, it was kind of a something that we expected from the get go. So um, stuff like that, I feel like would have even helped a little bit more. But you just saw that coming from a mile away. So I wonder who, I wonder how people feel who don't know that history, who don't know this character, who don't know the comics, and if that kind of hits a little harder, like, ooh, she's helping the bad guy this entire time, because that definitely was supposed to be a twist,
Yeah.
but it's not a very well hidden one. But other than that, I I love the story. Jonathan Majors can do no wrong. Michelle Pfeiffer was given a lot to do in this movie. Um, Even Michael Douglas, kind of held his own in this regard.
Yeah.
Um, loved loved everything about it. The Modoc character, how they kind of wrote him a little more hokey, which is fine by me. I did not see that twist coming, that it's somebody who we're familiar with, but I feel like it just makes sense, and so I'm glad they did it. It got the biggest laughs in my theater both times I watched it, so I feel like it was necessary, and I had a great time with it. Ray, let us know what some of your favorite parts of the movie were.
Well, pretty much there's quite a bit. I mean, it really got me thinking. A couple of stuff I read online where that I liked about it was kind of they mentioned one of King's characters in Moon Knight as well. Um, and I looked at that up, and it was pretty on there where they mentioned like the King Tut error. Um, but the things I liked about it, like you said, Kane just played the character pretty well overall. I mean, I can't even explain the characters that he did overall, like the three different characters. Well, for spoilers, of course. At
Sure.
the very end, the three different characters that we see talking to each other. And I feel like some people say, okay, it's Star Wars ish. Okay, I see some similarities where you see all the troops at the bottom and he's looking out the window like the Emperor. Kind of got that feel. And then also got a feel of Superman because it's supposedly what they banished him there. So kind of I see it as the Phantom Zone.
Very nice. Very
But it's like,
nice.
why would they banish him to the quantum realm? So I mean, it had a lot of questions for me, but overall, I mean, I liked it. Um, except Michelle Pfeiffer's character in general was great. But like you
Janet.
said, yeah, like the twist that you said, she didn't know she was helping a bad person. She was just being nice to somebody who she came across. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Um, you
Yeah,
had
the film had some
mentioned.
problems though. It did have some issues.
Well, I was gonna say you had mentioned the quantum realm being feeling a lot like the Phantom Zone, and I guess that's it. I mean, it's probably how DC and Marvel mirror each other with a lot of characters, a lot of concepts. Probably that's one of them. If anybody is actually familiar with that, I would assume that's kind of one of the things that they kind of mirrored with each other. But just like the Phantom Zone, the quantum realm is outside of space and time, right? Because
Yeah.
the Phantom Zone was the same outside of space and time. Um, let's see. I'm trying to remember if Young Justice, the Young Justice also did a season where they kind of went into the Phantom Zone. And I know we're getting off topic here, going with DC stuff, but they went into the Phantom Zone and there were creatures that could harm you, and they kind of explored a little bit more of the Phantom Zone and how to survive in it, and it kind of felt a lot like the quantum realm in that regard.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's a prison in the sense that there is no way for you to get out of it unless you have the required materials, and so that was the only place outside of space and time where he wasn't going to have the required materials to ever get out because they damaged his ship, not knowing that Michelle Pfeiffer's character was down there. So it just makes sense to me in that regard, but I see what you're getting at. Is there
Yeah.
anything that didn't work for you guys? And I'm gonna
Yeah.
kind of quickly talk about one, and that is it's not a deal breaker for me, but I really did not see the end of this movie coming. Meaning, I thought Kang was gonna let the bodies hit the floor. Like I thought, like this is the movie where he gets loose. He starts, his entire war. Kind of starts from this moment, and so the ending of the movies was very surprising to me, also in the sense that like we kind of probably have like an actual finite end for this character, meaning like if we don't see Kang the Conqueror again, I wouldn't be surprised now, because it sounds like this is really the end of the line for him, and the phase 5 and phase 6, or the multiverse saga, the entire deal is not supposed to revolve around stopping the worst Kang, but it does feel like we're trying to stop all the Kangs, and that is a wild concept. It feels like it's too much for people to follow and get behind. But if Marvel thinks they can pull it off, more power to them. Joe, what do you think, man?
There's a lot of things that I liked about Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. And then there were some things that I didn't like, things that
Go
didn't
for it.
work. And one of those things that didn't work was the CGI on MODOK. It was horrid. I'm going to be honest with you guys. It looked absolutely dreadful. It gave me vibes of Mr. Electric from Shark Boy and Lava Girl. And even that being done so many years ago looked better than MODOK. You know, to me, MODOK was basically just a wasted character. He really didn't have any business being there as far as what they did with him. For me, it just felt like a wasted character. They shouldn't even have introduced him at that point. The other thing was you see Kang, and of course he has his suit, he has his knowledge, he's made an empire down there in the quantum realm. He's overpowered. Nobody can really stand against him because they're always going to lose because he's so overpowered. But you're going to tell me that Ant-Man, a normal human that's just wearing a suit, and his superpower is he can get big or he can get small, is going to be able to defeat Kang the Conqueror.
Did he do it alone? He didn't do it
No, but
alone.
still, he was defeated, easily defeated at that, by two humans. with no spectacular powers, of any kind. They're not overpowered. They're not metahumans. They're just human beings in suits. Basically, that's all it is. And Kang, yes, he had to have all these other guys, as far as in the quantum realm, let's band together and let's go ahead and beat him. And then the ringer was the ants. I'm like, come on, man. Like, to me, they just made the character look weak. And that's not the way that King the Conqueror is portrayed in the actual comic books. Yet again, Disney does this thing where they build up this great villain. Oh man, people have been waiting for it, waiting for it. And then when it comes time to deliver, they shit the bed for all intents and purposes. And that's exactly
Really?
what they did with King the Conqueror. And then you have the end credit scenes, and like, Ray was talking about to us before we came on here, the end credit scenes. And full disclosure, we don't want to ruin it for you. So if you have not seen Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, please leave, because we don't want to go ahead and ruin the film for you. There are two post-credit scenes, and the first one is what Ray was saying. It's straight out of Avengers 292. It's the Council of Kangs, and you see all the Kangs together. Oh, I've called everyone, so we can go ahead and discuss what we need to do, because now the Avengers are starting to touch the multiverse. So it's straight out of the comic books. They have all the Kangs assembled, and what are they going to do next? Because the Avengers are starting to pose a threat to the variant's existence, So basically, what all this is leading up to is something that, if you're a fan of King the Conqueror, and you know more about the storyline, you know who that other character is, the other variant at the very end of the second post-credit scene. And his name was very prominent. It was displayed, and it was Victor Timely.
Yeah.
That was his name. And if you know the variant, you know why he is so dangerous, as far as, Loki making an appearance there. And it's the scenes taken straight out of Loki season 2, it looks like. And they're like, well, he doesn't look very menacing. And he's like, he's terrifying. Yeah, he is terrifying, because he's going back in time to do some nefarious things. Let's put it like that. Don't want to ruin things for people for, what's coming up in Loki season 2. But if you're a fan, you know exactly who Mr. Timely is, So what it all leads up to is, we know the Secret Wars are coming, There's a character in the Secret Wars that's, as they said, the Avengers are starting to touch the multiverse. So it's all leading up to the Beyonder. If you know, you know. That's all I'm going to say.
All right. All right. And before we get to Ray, we did have some comments I'm trying to catch up on. Legacy Nerd says, I'm late, but we are all in agreement this king is the same king in Loki who was he who remains. And really quick, we'll touch on this because that honestly was my thought process at the end of my first viewing. That this king, in a certain timeline, because this MCU timeline is like recyclical, right? It goes around and around and happens over and over. That there is a point where like he wins and he lasts all these millennia or whatever, and yes, he oversees everything and created the TVA and all that, and just one day he decided, I'm bored, and now I'm gonna have Loki and his variant come at me and kill me because I'm just bored of watching this entire movie, this TV show of this universe existing, of this multiverse existing. And so it's him throwing a wrench into the machine, right? And destroying everything. And he's just bored. And that's all it was. My second time viewing this, I'm actually not sure this is the same person. That is who he would be at the end. And I don't think I have a whole lot of evidence why he's not, but at the same token, I don't have a whole lot of evidence to support that he is the same character at the end of Loki season 1. I just think that Marvel's trying to tell us something, that there are these infinite number of Kang variants, and it's not infinite, right? But it's like probably millions.
What did that infinite
And
number of variants tell you, though? There's a reference to that.
is there?
You're seeing what is referencing a nexus being, right? So a nexus being, much like Wanda from WandaVision, is a being who's dangerous because they're variants or they can exist in time in everywhere. In other words, they exist everywhere all at once, right? I think that's what we're seeing with Kang. He's a nexus being. Another nexus being is Loki. So it's starting to come together now. You know, you're going to see how important a Nexus being really is. And we've even seen the reference in WandaVision. They had a commercial and it said something to the effect of Nexus, right? It was like a commercial or something like that. They're referring to Nexus beings. And I think that's going to be very prominent. Possibly, maybe in Loki, they'll start making more of a reference to it, but you're going to see why it's important, you know? And I think the all the Kangs together and seeing all those variants is just showing you how important a Nexus being can really be.
I also just want to kind of quickly mention that I think Marvel is going to be very particular about trying to show us these different variants, right? Like even in the end credit scene, the Council of Kangs, they all looked very different. The main three, and so the He Who Remains also looks very different from this version of Kang. This version of Kang, mind you, who has the scars on either side of his face, which the fan theories on why those are there are fantastic. Go look those up if you want to see some of those. But I think that's also one of the key points that Marvel's trying to tell us. This is the first time we're meeting this Kang. He Who Remains is just a different variant, and every single Kang we're going to see is also going to be a different variant. I I think they're trying to tell us like we don't have a big bad. We are going to have multiple big bads throughout phase 5 and phase 6, which is very different. We had Thanos in the Infinity Saga, right? Now in the Multiverse Saga, much like this other show we're about to talk about in the second half of this episode, The Last of Us, we don't have a single figure. We don't have a single person to worry about, to dread, to be afraid of. I think Marvel's trying to get us to understand, and they will do that over the next projects of TV shows and movies. Every single Kang variant is going to be a problem. We will see multiple Kang variants, and probably when we get to the Kang Dynasty, there's not going to be a conqueror. There's going to be your top 3 council members of these Kang variants, and those are going to be your big bad. But every variant we see leading up to that is going to be a big problem. That's just my thought.
Yeah.
Ray, do you have a similar thought to that, or
Yeah, it
what's
kind of
your?
gets. Well, I mean, they also got to mention to me. You think about it, because they also you got to factor in his son because he has a son as well
Mm.
in the comic world. So it could be is that person that we see at the end of Loki season 1 his son, or that's what I'm saying. There's a different mixture because there's even a female Kang, of course, like a female Loki. So with Marvel's doing like the same thing, like Joe said. That was one of the things that even my buddy brought it up. Is like, how did he lose to 2 humans when he's kind of like Darth Vader, where he can just with his hand just slow you down or push you back, or you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, how did he beat him? That kind of is a big thing as well. Like what Joe said, you know.
Arrogance, cockiness,
Well, yeah, and then of
gets him
course
every time.
the power he had too. So I mean, the blasters that he shoots out of his hands, he could have torn Ant-Man up and you know uh Wasp up. So like I said, there's little flaws there that I didn't like either. But I mean, the images, of course, I sent you. I don't know if you want to put those up, but I mean, they're basically right out of the comics. You know what I mean? And it's like I kind of see what Marvel's trying to do. They're trying to cater to both sides, trying to mirror some of the comic form, but put a little twist in there as well. It's interesting. I mean, a lot of questions for me. Um, Time travel. It kind of reminds me. It's gonna sound dumb. It kind of reminds me of Kang being Biff, going back in time, trying to change the future's outcome. Kind of, you know what I mean?
I like it. Yeah.
So, like I said, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, but
Ryan
we're forgetting.
says
We're also go
Batman
ahead.
could take him out.
Yeah, he's
Of
talking
course.
about the same thing we're talking about. How easily Kang was dispatched, but the Battle of Eliath, that was the one thing that occurred that we never really saw.
Yeah,
With all the other Kangs, He Who Remains and the other Kangs, they had a battle there where they actually exiled Kang the Conqueror to the quantum realm. you know
yeah,
and Eliath was kind of the entity that evened the odds, where He Who Remains kind of went ahead and said, I'm going to go ahead and do my bidding from here, because no one else is going to be able to reach me, uh, with my guardian Eliath, kind of as his protector. So
Yeah.
he made the sacred timeline, to try to keep everything copacetic and whatnot, until Sylvie finally dispatched him and kind of put the poor guy out of his misery, because he was just living at the edge of time by himself. Um, so now everything's in chaos and flux again. It's just, like Kang was saying, Kang the Conqueror, he's like, time is broken. They're like, who broke it? I did. His variants broke time. So you're seeing all these branches and all these incursions that are happening because they played with time, and you have all these variants that exist and they're continuing to play with time, and all this madness is happening. At the end of the day, the one thing that it looks like that needs to happen in order for everything to be set right again is you need to go ahead and dispatch Kang at that single point in time, or the singularity at that point in time, where he goes out there and starts communicating with his variants, and all this chaos ensues. So I think what they're going to be looking for is they're going to look for that exact point in time where they have to go back and either dispatch him or make him change his mind.
true.
The photo that Ray you had sent over. Give me a second. Talk to us about this scene, right?
Well, it's basically the same scene that we see when the three Kangs meet at the very end. You know what I mean? And they're talking, like what Joe said. They're talking about the time being broken and stuff like that. That's pretty much what we're seeing here in the comic. So they basically took that scene and then the other one as well, where the very last, where we see all. I mean, it's almost identical to the post-credit scene, where even when you see the one particular character off the comic that kind of stands out off to the top of the page. So I mean,
Yeah.
I can kind of see what they're trying to lead to, but it also too. I mean, okay, if you're a comic book guy, the Watcher is supposed to be the one that watches over everything as well,
Right.
to prevent things from happening in comic and the Marvel universe.
Yeah, we've seen the Watcher too. They showed it in the What If series.
Yeah. So where is the Watcher right now? You know what I mean? So it leaves you that question, like, where is the Watcher currently? Yeah, we've seen him in the What If universe. Are we going to see him later in a part of the phase as well, the next phase? Or some part of him?
I think they have to, right? Because that's probably another reason why they're introducing those what if stories. Trying to show us these other characters and how going to and from multiverses can happen, and how some characters being able to travel between multiverses, how dangerous they can be. I mean, we did get sort of evil Doctor Strange in the What If series, and then what was like one of the first movies that come out right after that was Multiverse of Madness, and now we're just like, ooh, that's like the same guy basically, and don't think we ever got an official answer that he wasn't the evil Strange from the What If series. So fans are just kind of going to eat that stuff up if they keep that connective tissue running throughout phase 5 and phase 6. David had a David had a comment here. Did Ant-Man and the Wasp defeat Kang, or was that just part of Kang's plan? That's a very good question. This Kang, you mean? I think he did not want things to go down this road. Is he completely gone? I would bet money that he is gone completely, or he's
No.
dead, or we're not going to see him again. Am I 100% sure? No. And also, kind of going back to Legacy of Nerds comment, I don't think this is He Who Remains. I feel like there's enough of a difference between the two characters, both like their personality, their physical features, how they look. I think there's enough of a variance between these variants. See what I did there? That we're supposed to understand they're not the same character, and that's just me trying to get into the mindset of Marvel Studios going into Phase 5. Every single one of these Kangs are different. He Who Remains was literally the only He Who Remains, and he's gone, so he's done, and we will no longer see He Who Remains. And he was basically the only thing holding this bridge together, the only thing holding this entire structure. And now that he's gone, all bets are off and chaos can ensue. So I'm still thinking, and I'm of the mindset, this is not He Who Remains. He's done. We won't see him ever again. And this conqueror might also definitely be dead. And that's just what I'm going with. I mean, I think that there were expectations set up within myself and the general audience, and those expectations are out the window. You will not see a single big bad in Phase 5 and Phase 6. You will see a mm, you will see an army of Kangs over the next two phases, the one that we're in and the following one. And I think that's just where we're at, and that's just mind-boggling. But if anybody can pull it off, it's Marvel.
Yeah, but the Kangs are just the tip of the iceberg. You're seeing the multiverse, and you've already been introduced to some of these other characters. You've been introduced to the Celestials.
Yeah.
Introduced to the Eternals. You've been introduced to the Watcher, who, much like Kang, the Watcher kind of lives outside of time and space itself. He's already seen everything, knows everything. You know, so there's some other things that are happening here. I mean, like was telling everybody, Secret Wars are coming, and it's going to start leading up to more and more things like the Beyonder and a lot of other things. It's about to get really weird. So the variants of Kang, while they are formidable, there are other threats that are even stronger than that. So I think the audience is just starting to get a taste of a bigger world.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. David also says he also thinks He Who Remains is different from exiled Kang, or AKA the Conqueror. And he also says there are a ton of variant Kangs, some stronger than others. Absolutely. And I think, the three head council ones are the ones to worry about the most now. Exiled King is probably hunting down the power to become more powerful than he is to be the most powerful villain in the multiverse. I I think I know what you're saying. I agree that this Kang, should he had a second chance, he would have conquered all the other Kangs, destroyed all their timelines, and would have been more closer to the He Who Remains Kang that we saw. You know what's interesting is that the TVA had the statue of the new Kang, right? It wasn't He Who Remains, but it was like it looked more like the Conqueror Kang. And so I'm wondering if who knows? I'm just gonna assume every Kang is different. I want to try and put these pieces together. I just don't think we have enough evidence at this point.
I think the one
Legacy.
that they dispatched, King the Conqueror, the reason that he did not fit in with the other variants is that maybe he was the one that actually wanted to fix time, and in destroying these timelines that had already been created through uh, let's say, the tampering of the variants, he was actually trying to reset the wrongs that they were doing. And that's why they exiled him, because he posed a threat to their existence. So putting him outside of space and time and him there means that he no longer poses a threat
Right.
to their lives. And now that he's been dispatched, and they see that, hey, the Avengers, the Ant-Man and all them are starting to touch the multiverse, and they dispatched the Kang the Conqueror. Now they pose a threat to the other variants in their existence. So now things are about to get weird, because they want to keep on living and they like the lives that they've all created in these other branches of time, which are broken.
So I'm gonna throw this out there. Let me see what you guys think.
Go for it.
So what if the TBA? Because you noticed how the TBA could go to certain parts in time where catastrophic things happened. What if the TBA goes back? Because you think about it, we never thought that we were going to see Captain America go back and Bruce Banner go back in time to go get the stones. What if we see the TBA, either Loki or someone from TBA, goes back to stop this Kang that we saw get destroyed in the movie, to save him if he was the one that was supposed to stop the other Kangs? I know it's just throwing it out there. You know what I mean?
You'll see what happens in Loki season 2, but
Right?
again, if you know about Mr. Timely, if you know, we're not going
Yeah.
to get into all that,
Yeah.
but that's definitely something that's going to be a hot topic of debate once Loki season 2 comes out, and I'm sure it's going to lead into other things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm also of the mindset that season 1 Loki, that TVA, they were not, I mean, obviously you watched it, everybody watched it. So they had a personal agenda of he who remains. Nothing that they did was for any other reason than accomplishing the objective of he who remains. And that objective was get Loki and Sylvie to his temple at the end of season 1. That was the goal. So, despite what anybody else thinks, the TVA unknowingly worked to fulfill the agenda of he who remains. And that agenda was, I am bored as crap. I need these two to come over here and kill me because I'm done with this. I'm done babysitting the multiverse. I want out, basically, is what he was doing.
Well, the
So,
TVA's objective was to, go ahead and keep intact the sacred timeline. But like, he who remains says, I know
only the
how it
way he
all
wants
ends.
it.
I know all this stuff that's been going on. And he can read time up to a certain point, and the rest was going to be up to Loki and Sylvie, because he could only see what was going to happen up to a certain point in time. And that was the choice that they had to make, where Sylvie had to make. And unfortunately, she decided to dispatch him. But he always said, he who remains says, I'll see you soon,
Yep. And again, TVA, it's all a front. Like, yes, they were doing that, but as long as it accomplished the overall goal, and the goal was Loki and Sylvie take him out at the end of season 1, and that's mind-boggling. And it's also been confirmed by the director and writer of Loki season 1. She actually said the same thing. Legacy Nerd says this reminds me of the first crossover for the Arrowverse, where they had to take out Vandal Savage at different points of time simultaneously. Yeah, I wonder if they're going to get into that. And that would be interesting because, they we did that with Legends of Tomorrow, right? That was like the first whole season of Legends of Tomorrow, where
Yeah.
going through time and stopping Savage.
Yeah, I think we need to start
Such
getting
a,
off of this topic here and get
I
into
get it. I
the
get it.
next
Yeah,
one.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
already
We'll
going
move
a
on.
little
We'll
long.
move on.
Okay.
I get it. I get it. So we'll definitely move on. But yeah, I can see that as well. Uh, David says, I want to see the Watcher throw down against superpowered Kang. Absolutely. Wasn't Stan Lee talking to the Watcher about all things he has seen? He
Yeah.
actually was a Watcher. Like, he was a Watcher talking to other Watchers. So I absolutely love that, which was always like a big fan theory. A big fan theory that was once questioned to Stan at a convention in San Antonio. I was there for that. David says, I definitely think exiled Kang will be back, and Kang is the big bad, in my opinion. If that happens, I will be shocked. I will absolutely be shocked. I feel like they're trying to get away from that formula, and people have always complained that Marvel is just one big formula. Legacy Nerd says, there is Kang that is going to be the one, and it's not going to be Jet Li. Very nice. Well, the '90s movie reference. Well done, sir.
Oh, one.
Well done. We want to still hear from you guys if you're just watching this video at a later time, or if you're listening to us on the podcast version of this episode. Let us know what your favorite parts were of Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, and you can drop your thoughts in the comments, or you can send us a message on the contact page of our website at www.countdowncitygeeks.com. Really appreciate it. Awesome. I'm going to bring in a gentleman you're all familiar with, the one, the only, Matty B. What's going on, sir?
What up, Maddie? Finally, I had to tell Teddy to stop monologuing, man, so we could get you in.
No. It's okay. It's okay. There's a lot. There's a lot to talk about. I haven't seen the movie yet, and because I'm not the biggest comic book nerd of some of you guys, you guys are really in depth into it. I'm finding hard time, getting into Ant-Man. You know what I mean? Marvel's gonna have a problem here eventually, where you're not going to be able to get normies to care about these characters that are away from those main folks that everybody knows.
Very
And
nice.
so hopefully, this movie is good. I'm planning to go see it tomorrow, actually, during my lunch break. I've already bought my tickets, so I'm gonna go watch it tomorrow, a matinee. So I'll give my thoughts on that maybe in an article, but it doesn't sound like it moved the needle that great. It sounds like you guys are talking more about things that could have been than things that were.
Yeah, things that are coming. This movie's just setting things up. It's the start of Phase 5, and yeah, so you're gonna see why some people like it and why some people
Yeah.
have that mixed reviews, and it's not for everyone. Let's put it like that. But make sure you do stay for the 2 post-credit scenes.
Well, that's an excellent segue there, Joe, because I think the reason why you guys brought me in is for something that is for everyone.
Yep.
And what that
Let's
is,
get to it.
of course, is fantasy box office. You're not getting too far ahead of us. Really quickly, last week on the show, I announced a new Geekcast segment that we're going to be doing all year long, fantasy box office. Basically, your same rules as fantasy football. However, we are not choosing what team or what players will perform well. We are choosing how movies will perform. And the first one, of course, was Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, and I'm just going to kind of quickly tell you guys what we're doing every time a movie drops. So we're going to be predicting opening worldwide box office totals. We went around the group, got predictions from everybody except one. JC couldn't get a hold of JC, but the predictions were as follows. At the top was Matt, who predicted 289 worldwide, million worldwide. Joe came in at 255. I came in at 225. Jericho predicted 200 million, and Ray predicted 180 million. The official opening weekend, minus the Monday holiday, we're skipping the Monday holiday, but the opening box office weekend was in fact 225 million. What does that mean? Bullseye for steady, right on the money. Nailed it. And if Lozano was actually part of this the entire time, uh, I would have included him. He actually guessed 225 and $1. So you were $1 off, Lozano, but you were also, very close. So, what does that mean? Point scale: 6 points for a bullseye, 5 points if you're within 1 to 5% off of the official total. 4 points for the next tier, 3 points for the next tier, 2 points for the next tier, 1 point if you're between 41 and 50%, and you get 0 points if you are more than 50% off of the box office total. So, through week one, I'm in the lead with 6 points. Joe and Jericho tied for second with 4 points. Ray with 3 points. Matt with two. And JC, who's going to have to catch up starting next week or the next time we do a movie, who's at the bottom of the list right now. But I'm excited. This is going to be a fun bit, and I can't wait to see when we're like 5, 6, 7 movies in and see where the point totals are. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. And that 225, just a shot in the dark. Really happy I got that first one in the bag. Let's keep this momentum going. I am excited. I don't know what we're gonna give the winner at the end of all this. I will figure it out, and you guys will learn probably midway through the year. But the next one most likely will be Shazam. I would say is probably the next big movie that will
I'm not
see.
gonna really go see that one. I'm gonna
Well,
skip.
you're still gonna predict the box office total, so that's all that really matters.
I'm not gonna waste my
Gross.
hard-earned money on that. Maybe I'll get it on bootleg.
Ugh.
You're still doing the bit. You're still doing the bit. So
Yeah, we
awesome.
can still guess on a movie that we know is going to suck. The numbers will just be lower, you know.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But I was banking on, because I knew that Jonathan Majors was going to have a lot of camera and press time during the NBA skills contest. I knew that there was going to be a big marketing push around this, and I knew that Ant-Man would be the thing that anchored, or was the sort of ball and chain, if you will, for the um, rankings. Because Kang is the reason why people were going to see this movie, you know. So I was just hoping that that big push would kind of, push those numbers up. But I'll be a little bit more modest next time. When I was looking it up, when you brought this up the first time, it said 220, and I said I think that's a little low. And then you went 225, and I was like, oh well, maybe 289. I think we can get there. Nope.
255 for me was Ant-Man underperforming, so it kind of really underperformed with only 225.
Well, no one's gonna get up for Ant Man. Paul Rudd is great. Don't get me wrong, but Ant Man does not move the needle.
Yeah, thank you, Spider-Man.
That was the highlight of the film.
Right, right.
Oh,
Thank
that's
you,
hilarious.
Spider Man. I those one liners, those jokes they threw in from like start to finish were hilarious. Even towards the end, the Baskin Robbins manager like making the crappy cake, all fantastic stuff. And yeah, I honestly, I thought it was fun. I enjoyed it from start to finish, and we've already talked about it, but even the second time around, still as funny. Had a great time, and if you haven't seen it, I hope you guys go see it. I hope it didn't spoil the whole thing for you. But yeah, let's get into the final topic of tonight. The Last of Us episode 106 titled Kin. You know how we do. Every time we talk about a series, we start with a summary and it goes a little something like this. Episode 6, titled Kin. We fast forward 3 months, and Joel and Ellie have made it to Wyoming and locate Tommy. Despite the family reunion, Joel still keeps his cards close to his chest initially, not letting his own brother know about Ellie's condition or what happened to Tess. After some internal conflict on who is more equipped to travel to meet with the Fireflies, Joel ends up chaperoning her. The two of them come to a university where they come into contact with raiders. Joel is able to fight one of them off, but is potentially mortally wounded when he is stabbed in the stomach. And him and Ellie ride off, and before the episode ends, Joel collapses to the ground. Yeah, so a lot going on in this episode. Initial thoughts from everybody. Maddie B, I'm gonna start with you, sir.
I um I love Rutina Wesley. She played Tara in True Blood, and she's Tommy's bride to be and baby mama, if you will, during this episode. Um, I really like seeing her in this role, and she plays this type of part very well, especially in apocalyptic, scary scenarios. Her time on True Blood served her well here. It was really good. The When we first start off though with Ellie and Joel, it's still kind of the tense, I don't really love you, but I love you sort of scenario. And then we pull up on this beautiful Native American uh, like couple, and he's just getting back from hunting rabbits, and Joel's in the house with a gun and everything, and he's just trying to get information on if he's going to the right place because he's looking for the secret area of where his brother might be. And the humor that was transpiring in that house, I thought was really funny. It was a little bit of levity, and we have to get a little bit of that in shows this intense. and and you sort of find out why later on in the episode. But that sense of levity between that Native American couple to me was incredible. When I was watching this though, I was thinking because we have the River of Death, right?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, well, how could there be these things out there? Because we know the only reason why the walkers were able to exist was because the earth had heated to a certain point, right? That
Right.
allowed these mushrooms or this fungus to spread into humans and live even though the corpse was dead. So there has to be like a temperature aspect to it. So I'm sitting here thinking, well, how does all of this make sense? How could there be clickers out here if the temperature is so cold? It comes to find out that once we get into the thing, they were literally just laying bodies of the people that tried to come into the fort around the river to make it look like there was clickers or bad things going on, the river of death, if you will,
Yeah.
to protect this amazing town. And here I am screaming at Joel again. First what was he at? He was at Bill's house, right? And
Right.
then, which is a perfect scenario. And then he comes into this beautiful town. They have Christmas tree, Ted.
They have movies.
I mean, and nope, still not good enough. Mission's not accomplished. We can't just chill for even just a second. Joel can't chill at all. Joel has no chill. And, obviously Tommy has painted Joel in a bit of a bad light. And it's probably, he was probably just simping, pillow talking with this girl about the tough stuff that he'd been through. And it
Yep.
made Joel seem odd, right? So, all that's okay, whatever. And we get to the ultimate scene where it's like Ellie is confronting Joel on, dude, do you want to be a part of this or no? Do you love me or not? Is basically what she said. It's a love story. It's a romance, but it's not a romance between people who want to between adults who want to get in love. It's a father and daughter story, right? But it's
Right.
still a romance in a way that the story is set up in that way. And so, she pushes him, he turns the door and shuts it. And then they walk out to the stables. And you see Joel there, obviously, tacking up the horse. And he says, I just wanted to give you the choice of, and she shoves the duffel bag in his chest and says, let's go, right? Because she loves him and she trusts him and she can only, do this with him. So they go to the Firefly thing and all this stuff, and they're setting it up. And the whole time, the episodes had a pretty medium emotional toll, right? To this point, it's been like there's been some stuff between Joel and his brother. There's been some stuff between Ellie and Joel, but it really hasn't hit the point of some other episodes we've hit. And then we
No.
get to this part. We get to they get to Eastern Colorado University, and they're trying to figure out where the fireflies are. And there's monkeys all around, which is kind of funny. But then a group of marauders comes up, and one of my favorite parts of this scene is when this starts to happen, or they start to pull up to Eastern Colorado University. Ellie goes to Joel, guns? He says, yeah, because he trusts her now. And so they get the guns out and like they're doing the thing. And I'm like, yes, finally, this father-daughter bonding moment. Finally, after all of these episodes, they've finally gotten together emotionally enough to say, I trust you, you trust me, we're doing this thing together.
Let's
And
go.
then what happens at the end of the episode? And I know, Ted, you don't watch previews, but I'm going to spoil this. And if anyone in here hasn't watched the previews, don't be on Ted's team on this. Watch the previews. Because we don't see Joel one time in the previews of the next episode. So I want to know what you guys think is going to happen. I never made it this far into the game. I played a little bit of it, and then I switched over to Xbox. So I don't even know what's going on moving forward. And so I want to know what you guys think. What is it? Is he going to make it?
Go
Have
ahead,
you played
Joe.
the video game, Matt?
No, I played up to like episode. What we got through like episode 3, and there were some differences up into there. During that time, I switched. Honestly, to tell you the truth, I got broke, and I had to pawn my PlayStation 5. And like a month later, I just got an Xbox, and I never played PlayStation again.
Mm.
So I couldn't play the last of it. I never got past that point.
Gotcha. Yeah, there's some things that are about to happen. you know. So I mean, I played the game. My sons have played the games and all that, so we kind of know what's happening. Yes, there's different variations from the video game that they're doing here in the series. Which they got to, I think, to a certain degree. But yeah, either the thing that is always they have to leave you on a cliffhanger to come back for more for next week. But yeah, Joel takes a broken bat to the gut, Maddie.
Yeah, and
I I'd
he's
be very
bleeding out.
surprised. Yeah, I would be extremely surprised if this was the last time that we see Pedro Pascal. I mean, just because, not that it can't happen, just that like we won't see him at all in the next episode. Like this is it. This is the send off. I mean, that's a possibility, I suppose. Also, someone who hasn't played the game past this point, I understand. I know some of the highlights of the second game already, but I'm really, that would be shocking if that was just it. Like Left for Dead outside this university on this
when
railroad track
when
and gone.
she is pounding on his chest at the end and saying, "I can't do this," I I have cried in every episode of this show except for episode 1. Episode 2 through 6, I have had literal tears in my eyes. And when she was doing that and like pounding on him and saying, "I can't do this without you, Joel, 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 come on." And he had already been talking about having fear and being weak and not being able to do this. And so it really just led in so nicely to the ending of this episode, which obviously left us on a cliffhanger. We want to know what happens, but it was beautiful the way they orchestrate your emotions. They play you like a fiddle. They know exactly what strings to hit to to keep you involved and to keep the story moving forward at the same time. It's kudos to HBO Max. But no, but everyone's like, "Oh, how's HBO Max doing so well?" I don't know. They have like the best shows ever on TV since like 1997. So and they have a way different demographic than Disney Plus. So, but it's really really good. So I'm gonna shut up and just Retro Ray. You didn't play the video game. What'd you think?
I can tell you right now at the end of the show, my wife's like, "What the fuck?" That was at the end of the episode. That was her response. If I could have recorded it, it would have been priceless. I gotta record her next time. But yeah, her thing was like, "What the fuck? They can't kill him off." Blah blah blah. But we talked about it. Me and her. We're like, "Are they gonna pull a Walking Dead? Is he gonna be a Daryl? Is he gonna be because he's Pascal? Is he gonna be the one they're gonna keep him? It's like you said. Overall, I didn't watch the game. The chemistry between Pascal and Ellie, I mean, I'm sorry, Joe and Ellie, it's just perfect, man. It's like, and then part of another thing that we laughed at it as well is that when you see him riding the horses, it kind of gave us that Michonne when she was on the horse
Yeah,
with the. But
yeah,
overall, I love the episode. I mean, I didn't want it to finish, and yeah, I was in the same thing with my wife. I was the same way. Like, you got to be kidding me already. But
yeah.
that's
But
just
when you say you didn't want it to finish, so when I'm watching a good TV show, like a really good TV show, and the time, can change. So one episode might be 45, one episode might be an hour, one episode might be 35. If I'm watching a really good TV show, I find myself hitting the up button on my remote several times just to see how much is left, just so I can sort of prepare myself emotionally for how much time do we have to resolve this current issue.
yeah, we do that too.
I try not to do that because then I feel myself anticipating the end coming, and I don't want that. I don't want to
Yeah.
add any more emotions to what is already happening. So I'm just trying to watch it. I do wish there was a little bit more drama in this episode, but I did like the reunion with his brother and the internal conflict that Joel had, and it was something that I had brought up really early on in the season, where I'm like, Joel looks like he is suffering somewhat, and I didn't know what it was, but it was that subplot that has been carrying over into this episode. He's too old. He's not in his prime anymore, and there's something physically ailing him. And I thought it was like he was going to either have a full blown panic attack in this episode, or maybe a heart attack. It was something that severe that it could have
Uh,
been.
can I chime in here, Ted, real quick?
Of course, of course.
As a sufferer of anxiety, because I deal with anxiety at an extreme level, to the point to where you can dissociate and you can almost feel like you're having a heart attack sometimes. The way this show portrayed a panic attack is perfect. It it like the way the sounds sort of changed, the way the vision sort of changed, and how he felt like there's I don't think there's anything physically wrong with Joel. He's having PTSD. He's having, you know, anxiety. He's having all of these things of becoming older, feeling not confident enough. Is that what you were thinking as well? Or do you think it's
I
physical ailment?
I thought that there, because it was early on, and I don't remember exactly what it was that he was doing in the first or second episode, but he was visibly bothered by something, and it seemed too obvious to where they were going to come back to that at a later episode. And so he's telling us, like, I have these nightmares. Ellie says he mumbles in his sleep. He's having these sort of panic attacks, like you had mentioned. But also just from the one episode when they were being chased through Kansas City, he's like, I couldn't hear the next guy. He got the jump on me. This normally doesn't happen to me. There is something physically bothering me, or I don't even know, distracted, or not as quick, or not as whatever it is. Just he's definitely past his prime, and whatever it is that's ailing him is so noticeable that he doesn't want to put Ellie in any sort of harm's way. And
He's the
come to
reason
find
he's
out, he
having
was
these
right.
panic attacks, though. I think he sees he's already had a panic attack once when he beat that other guard to death when the guard was trying to scan Ellie. He didn't want that. He didn't want her to I guess witness the same fate as his daughter. So that
100%.
attachment that he has, that love for Ellie, which is already formed a father and daughter relationship here, is giving him PTSD. It's giving him anxiety because he doesn't want to lose her. So every time they get in a dire situation, like they did when they went into that town to try to go, create a shortcut, and then they get jumped and they're shooting at them, and he's telling her, go, 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 and go inside this hole in the wall and wait for me there. And he's trying to do his best to kind of protect them, and he's dispatching these guys. At the same time, his senses aren't there because his whole focus it should be on the battle, but it's on Ellie. And that's the thing, that's his Achilles heel. That's why he's having these PTSD flashbacks. That's why he's getting these panic attacks, because now the shit's real, because he formed an attachment with Ellie. So he's kind of reliving all these old memories of the things he's done, and he knows that he can't lose her. So that's his thing, is that he's going through these panic attacks and he's having this PTSD, and all these things are happening to him, and it's because he's become a father again. you know and he has to learn to get a grip around his emotions.
And
Yeah, I agree with them.
we start the episode at 3 months later, right?
Yeah,
So how long have they been together? Half a year?
yeah,
Like 6 months?
Yeah, we could probably say that.
yeah. And they're joking
So,
around. They have a relationship.
and they spend 100% of their time together.
They're a
So,
well-oiled machine at this point.
I don't know how long it took you to marry your significant others or be with your significant others, but once you decide you love somebody and that you've been around them enough to love them, it's usually less than the amount of time that they've spent together. How many hours and nights and everything that they've spent together has this culminated to? And she felt extremely betrayed by him. She was very tough in the moment. She's like, "Fuck it, I'll go." And oh, sorry, Geekcast After Dark. But no, but she said that she's like, whatever, I'm just gonna go with this. And I'm used to people betraying me, but she didn't expect it from Joel, and none of us expected it from Joel. And that moment where she shoved a duffel bag right in his chest and said, "Let's go," I was like, "Let's go." Right? Like, no, you're not going to let him just get away with this. He's running from something. He's scared of something. But is his overall pattern for Joel? Does he care that much about the human race? Like, is part of his motivation he wants to get her to who can help to build a vaccine? Is that actually part of his
I think he wants
motivation?
to, in a sense, the way they're portraying everything here, that seems like the end game. But the real thing I think is that he just wants to go wherever she goes. They can't be apart at this point.
Yeah,
He has that, he's in dad mode right now.
Yeah,
He does want to help. It seems, like he has her best interest in mind, and he wants to see this thing through to the end. But I mean, it's just this PTSD thing that he has. He can't lose her.
yeah, that's what it is. It's basically hits that fear that he can't do it anymore, and he's afraid what's going to happen to what happened to his daughter. Basically,
He's capable of doing it, but he's breaking down because of he's these emotions that he's feeling. They're all
yeah,
new to him again, and he's afraid. That's the thing. His heart beats fast. He's getting panicky, and
yeah,
he doesn't know how to feel. It's because he's having these real feelings for Ellie, and that's like his daughter. He can't lose her again, and I think that's triggering all these emotions. And again, that PTSD is coming up because he knows how it ended with his real daughter. He doesn't want that to happen to her.
he doesn't want that heartbreak again, and
Yeah,
that
Yeah.
again, that's what I'm talking about. Joel's motivation, right? So,
yeah.
um, we've been in one situation which is perfect, Bill's house. We've been in another situation which is perfect, where he's already basically in with the council because his brother and his brother's baby mama is on the council, right? Ex district attorney has trust of but and there's like a group of people here. They can commune. They're communists, right? They even said that in the show. That it's a commune, you know. And so, but if you're in this scenario, that's what you're hoping for. So Joel's only motivation right now, so to speak, is making up for the loss he had from his daughter and not being able to protect his daughter, and fulfilling that through Ellie, right? Does he have like what's Joel's end goal? We talked about that a little bit in the episode. I want a sheep ranch and all this stuff, and then he said, "Well, no, I don't want a sheep ranch." Joel doesn't want anything other than to not feel like crap about his daughter dying, and if it means taking Ellie to where she goes, that's what his only motivation is. And if he dies along the way, then he dies along the way because he's had perfect scenario after perfect scenario set up. If you're in this situation, right?
I will also add one item to this conversation, and it's something that he mentioned in this episode specifically, talking to his brother Tommy. He says, I promised Tess. Tess was, the
Yeah.
love of his life, so to speak, in this post apocalyptic world. And they did a lot together, both good and bad. And he, that was her dying wish, was like, take her to these fireflies, take her across the country, save the world. I think her motivations to save or salvage the human race was a lot more passionate for her than it is for him. I think 51% is I'm doing this because I promised Tess. 49% of this is I can save however many humans who are still around. But I think it's a lot more. There's just more having to do with Tess, and yeah, that's what it is. Because also, like, all this time that he spent with Ellie, let's say they get to their destination and he hands her off, would he really go his own way after that? I don't think so. So it probably isn't just that I need to get her to this destination, but I think that it is obviously going to be a lot harder for him to let go should they get there, which uh after this episode is looking very bleak.
Yeah. And then, but also, so again, I didn't finish the game, so I don't know what happens. But so when I
Same.
finished, just like Retro Ray, I was talking with my girl afterwards, and we're talking about, well, what's going on here? What's going on here? And then because we both have been involved in media and things for a long time, um, we start talking about, well, why might this be? Is it because they don't want to run concurrent with Mandalorian? It Do they not want Joel to be in a few episodes while Mandalorian premieres? Is it is there a contractual agreement that says that Pedro cannot be in this role while Mandalorian is running?
Interesting. Wow. That could be a thing. I wouldn't doubt that. Maybe
True.
Kenobi knows. Kenobi also says, I think Tess was trying to save Joel too. Yeah, for sure. Right? Save the human race, and just by default, she saves Joel as well. Unless you mean that like taking this girl on this trip would have given him some sort of more value personally for him. I could also see that. You know, let's get out of this terrible place where we do terrible things and take this girl on this trip, and maybe we'll finally be free of this lifestyle. I could also, definitely see that. So I like that idea. I like that thought.
Yeah, The Last of Us is scheduled to run for 9 episodes. So we're coming up on episode 7, which is going to air this Sunday. So, yeah, man.
There will be a little bit of an overlap, right? Like a week or
Yeah,
two.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, who knows, right? We don't know. All that I know is that, again, Ted, you didn't watch it, so cover your ears. Joel has not. None of the next episode storyline, as far as the trailer shows, has anything to do with Joel. It's in fact just setting up Ellie for like a new scenario. I thought. Retro, did you watch it?
Well, that's the thing. Do you watch it on HBO Max or do you watch it on regular HBO when it airs?
I watch. Do I watch it? What is this? 1993. I watch it on HBO Max.
Well, no, because mine didn't have trailers at the end.
Ooh,
What do you
interesting.
mean? Mine has trailers and it has like a behind the scenes thing after.
It's right after the credits.
Yeah.
No,
You gotta
mine
finish
just went back to the regular screen. I'm gonna have to go back and check because mine just went like when the credits ended, it went right back to
Joe,
play.
I know you're with me on follow up trailers. Did you watch the follow up trailer?
Yeah, of course. I'm not Teddy, man. Come on now.
Because me and Joe always give Retro. You're gonna have to get in on this. So Ted never wants to hear anything about the next episode, which I think is crazy, and Joe thinks is crazy. But me
Yep.
and Joe are big. I'm going to wait.
Okay, so what did y'all see? Because I didn't see.
It's
It's
definitely going to be about Ellie. It's like showing you what she went through from kind of her perspective before she was captured and before she met Joel. You know?
Oh,
oh
so basically a flashback
oh
scene.
Joe. I didn't even think about that. So you're saying this is before she met Joel?
Yeah.
I was thinking this whole
Oh,
episode is after this, saying that Joel's not involved anymore.
No, this was a flashback.
Okay.
oh.
Okay. Well, don't talk anymore.
No, it's not that. Oh, I know for sure, but just from what they were saying within the trailer, you get that right away that it's a flashback. It's kind of her origin story.
How many of you guys have cried on any one episode?
Not
Tears
me.
falling. I cried. I've already mentioned this. I've cried on like 5 episodes now. Ted, have you cried?
He's like, what?
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 Ted,
You talking to me?
have you cried in any episode?
You know what? The only time I got somewhat emotional was the first episode,
Really?
when he loses his daughter. Yeah, and this isn't a knock on the show, but like I've watched 12 episodes of The Walking Dead, and those characters I got invested in for dozens of episodes every season, right? There's like 22,
I,
24 episodes a
I
season.
wish they didn't do that to you. It's almost like when your friend has a terminal disease and you're like, I wish I could just take The Walking Dead away from you. What a terrible show. Anyway, go ahead, Ted.
Fantastic show, groundbreaking, and up to its fifth season, it was must watch television,
Are we
and
talking
still
about The Walking Dead? Oh,
still to this
Ted is
day,
obsessed with The Walking Dead. He keeps bringing this
still.
isn't even a zombie flick.
You're right. You're right. It is not. However, the post-apocalyptic sort of model and the dynamic between both survivors and marauders and everything else, um, it's hard to get to those moments because when you would lose someone in The Walking Dead, it was after 60, 70, 80 episodes of seeing them constantly, seeing them doing mundane things. It you don't have as much of that yet in this one, right?
I
We've
pieced
only
that
seen these
show out
characters
after
for
they killed Glenn. I was like, you know what? I'm out, dude. You killed the one
yeah,
character that I liked. Peace out.
Then how long can you
but
keep a
how
zombie?
dramatic was that? But how dramatic was that? That was like
It was
one of the most
stupid.
dramatic
It was
moments
dumb.
in
After that,
television
the
history.
show just
Well,
sucked.
well, the whole thing about zombie stuff is that it never ends. So Ted had already mentioned earlier that up to season 5 is must-watch TV. Yeah, and they should have ended it at season 5.
Yeah,
And
Probably.
you're never gonna
um,
find a cure in a zombie movie. All you're gonna have
what
to
we
do is
Well,
know
outlast.
well,
We
guys.
already know, though, at this with The Last of Us, that it cannot go that long. The story that we have is just not that long. So everything it's like Ted, you're comparing an NBA season to the NFL. So like Walking Dead is an NBA season. There's like a million games. Every regular season game doesn't matter. We do the playoffs, which is like around the season finales, and then you crown a champion, and then whatever. The Last of Us is more of an NFL season where every
More like
game matters along.
college football.
Yeah, but every game matters along the way
Yeah.
XFL.
because you know that there's an end point. The story does run out at some point.
Okay, guys, did any of you guys read Walking Dead?
I
Read
read
Walking
some of the
Dead.
comics. I'm not gonna lie. I read some of the comics
Same. Yeah.
available through Image, and
Yeah.
I read some of them, and they were quite good. I didn't read
Read
all
it.
of them, but I read
So,
some of them.
so I read all of them. So I was kind of pissed. Don't get me wrong. I love The Walking Dead. The show was good, decent. I hated what they did, where they changed things. Like there's some scenes that if they would have done it on the show, would have been so dramatic. Like the episode where Rick's wife dies. In the comic, she's pregnant and she gets shot, and while with the holding the baby
Yeah.
in the comic. So little things they tweak. Carl wasn't supposed to die. Uh, like Daryl was not even in the comics at all.
Right. Right.
So I mean, I wish what it's doing now for This Is Us. If I had played the
This
game,
Is Us, The Last of Us.
I mean, The
My
Last of
wife
Us.
calls it This Is Us,
Hey,
dude.
this is
Us.
My wife calls it This Is Us
Wow.
all the time.
that's
The
what
Last
the
of
show
Us.
needs. Some
Our
Milo.
our Modern Family review is coming up shortly after this. So
But no, if I played the game and it stayed the way it was, I probably would have been more happy with it. But in the comic, from the show, I was just kind of disappointed when they started changing things. So that's why I don't know, it's kind of like a catch-22 that I didn't play the game because, like you guys, y'all play to a certain extent. But I mean,
Well, I
does
played them.
it bother you though that it's following the game to a T to a certain extent?
It follows it, and then it kind of diverges a little bit. But I
it
get why
diverges a
they do
lot in this
things.
last episode too.
Yeah.
But you're okay though with the little tweaks they're doing, right?
I mean, you have to be at this point.
Yeah, you have to. I agree with Joe. You have to be okay with it because at the end of the day, we're getting a live action adaptation. Some calling it the best live action adaptation of a video game ever.
Yeah.
And so at some point, though, things are okay for video games. For major networks is difficult. For example, like her holding her baby after she got shot while pregnant. That's never going to play on network TV. Like that was actually just never going to be something that network TV, especially it was on cable, right? I mean, it was never going to play. I'm just of the mindset that too much of a good thing is always a bad thing, and when you run for that long, it's too much. The best TV shows of all time have never went over 7 seasons. They've never went over 6 or 7 seasons. Breaking Bad was 5 seasons. Sopranos went for 6. I mean, when you think about the best TV shows of all time, They've never went that long. And we know that The Last of Us can't hit that fail point because the story does run out at some point. They can go for what, 3 seasons? If each
If
one is
they
a video
really
game?
stretch it out, really it's geared up based if they base it on the video game, you can run it for possibly maybe 3, but it's 2.
Yeah. So you see what I'm saying? It's just you get to a point where you're overdoing something, and that's what The Walking Dead ran into the issue with, and all of the best TV shows ever. Look them up. Just the best TV shows of all time are 7 seasons, at most 5 for a lot of them. You know,
Except for
and so
Sopranos. How far did Sopranos go?
Sopranos went for 6 seasons.
Only? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Mad Men went for 6 seasons.
The
Um,
Wire? The Wire went for
The
like
Wire went for six
8 or
seasons.
9. No, you're kidding.
No, 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 no.
Well, my
It,
favorite series as a kid growing up was Otherworld. It's a long lost 80s show, and it only had 8 episodes, and it was pretty damn good. It had a short run.
the less you do, the better. And
Less
that's
is
just
more.
the way. That's just the way it is. Only
Wire
cinematic.
was 5 seasons. Wow.
Yeah. So but it takes a long time to go through those 5 seasons, right?
You're
You
right.
know,
You're right.
especially back then, the technology's lower. You can't just shoot on green screen all the time. You can't fake it. You have to be on scene, on set. So it took a long time to get those 5 seasons out.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Maddie? I got to commend HBO for doing something. They're single-handedly killing Disney Plus right now, because of the quality of shows that are coming out. And the less is more approach is very evident here with HBO Max. They don't care about releasing a shit ton of shows. They care about releasing quality over quantity. And Disney right now, they're in dire straits. They're losing money at this point. And there's even talks about Disney Plus going ahead and maybe opening their library up to third parties because their shows aren't very good, But HBO Max is putting out some quality stuff, man.
But their demo, it's really just all about the demo. So like when you think about HBO Max, um, their hit shows. Think Sex in the City. Think Sopranos. Think The Wire. Think
Game of
Game of
Thrones.
Thrones. Like these are very adult themed
Yeah,
programming, and so Disney cannot like
compete.
like the screenwriters who want to write for Disney or get the shot to write for Disney are just in. I'm not saying they're worse writers, but they're just in a different zone altogether than HBO Max writers. So I don't know that Disney Plus could ever compete with the level of television that HBO for decades now has proven to be able to do.
Disney
I
can if they go ahead and put some of those more adult theme TV series on
I think
Hulu, which is
they
a
would
parent company.
right. So I think that Disney Plus has the money to do shows really, really good. But influencing adults in the long term makes you less money. So, for example, like if I can convince you to buy my product today, Joe, I can get that product from you for maybe, I could get sales from you for however long that you're alive
Yeah.
from how old you are now.
But kids are,
Dis-
but the kid factor, I
Disney
get it.
want
Yeah.
Disney wants to get kids
Yeah.
because that's a longer play money wise.
Clothes, shoes, toys,
Exactly. So
food.
there's we're going to be able to afford the subscription to HBO Max.
Yeah.
But what does HBO Max offer other than good TV shows? Can I go to an HBO Max theme park? Can I buy HBO Max themed toys? Can I do any of these other things? No. So I think
But
Disney's is just a conglomerate.
yeah.
They only care about making money. They don't really care about making quality products, which is why a
HBO
lot of
Max,
us were pissed.
yeah,
Hey,
HBO Max gears more towards the teen and the young adult and the adult uh genre,
Yeah.
whereas Disney Plus is more family oriented shows. And
yeah,
as we can see, family oriented stuff is really low quality on Disney Plus. I mean, look at what they did. Their latest show, I mean, Willow. I mean, wow, it was so bad. I wouldn't be surprised if it's awarded the worst series of this past season, of this past year. It was really, really, really bad.
It was a tough watch. I'll agree. I'll
It was
admit that.
almost
Yeah.
it's up there with Halo, dude. It was up there with Halo.
Halo takes the. I don't know. Yeah, you're probably right. They're on the
Halo,
same level.
Halo is hands down the worst TV that I have watched, and I watch She-Hulk, so don't get me wrong. When I'm talking about bad TV, Halo is the worst bit of programming I've watched in maybe 10 years.
It was bad.
It was really bad, and it was worse than Willow. All sorts of other stuff that we were struggling to get to the season to get
Willow
through.
was a close second, Maddie. You got to admit.
Yeah. David had a really good point. He said, Encanto has been streamed more than anything else in the history of streaming, LOL. Well,
Yeah.
what do kids do? So imagine when you're a kid and you find your favorite movie, what do?
Watch it over and
Over
over
and
and
over
over
and
and over.
over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. You'll watch it a million times. How many times is Frozen? If Frozen came out when like Disney Plus was like coming out, Frozen would be well above Encanto by far, I would say.
I think it's an outlier. Like, let's be honest there. I do think it is an outlier. They did not expect those numbers. They actually wish they would have released it in theaters or held it back and released it in theaters. They had no idea it was going to be as big as it was. And then even the soundtrack won awards and all this stuff. They just sold out the Hollywood Bowl a few months back,
You know what? I
doing
never
a.
seen Frozen. I've never seen Frozen 2, and I don't
I
care.
haven't either. And the only reason
I
why is
have, but I
because
have a daughter.
I went to Disney. I went to Disneyland in Anaheim, and I hadn't been to Disneyland ever. When I grew up, we went to Disney World, but I was really excited about seeing the Aladdin show. It just so turns out that a month before I went to go to Disneyland, they had replaced the Aladdin show with Frozen. So I have a vendetta against Frozen. The only Frozen thing that I've ever touched, or even bought, or even thought about was a toy for Ted's daughter because she loves it so damn much that when I was I bought an Elsa doll for her, but I reluctantly did it. I almost said they're out of stock, but yeah, but you know what I mean. Kids just they watch this stuff over and over and over again. Your kid might watch their favorite movie 3 times in one day.
Hey, you guys are lucky. Y'all missed that. Well, I don't know, Joe. You may be up there with me. I had to watch Barney and Teletubbies. Now that
Mm.
Hey,
is
Hey, but dude, are you kidding me? I was the kid watching the Barney over and over and over again.
oh my god,
Ah, man.
those songs were just a nightmare. My daughter would just put the tape in, rewind, tape, rewind. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh
my
my
daughter
god.
was into Barney, but the saving grace is that I had a son, and my son, since he was maybe 3 or 2 at the time, that's when Star Wars: The Phantom Menace was released.
Nice.
So his first cassette that I bought him was Star Wars: The Phantom Menace, and he wore that shit out, dude. I mean, we still have that thing today, and I have an old VCR right here next to me in my studio, and I showed him the other day. I said, "Hey, your tape is still here. It still works." It's a little wonky in some areas, but he loved Star Wars. He loved X-Men, Dragon Ball Z, and all that stuff. So while my daughter might have been into Teletubbies and Barney, I still got to geek out with my boy.
I see. I did those. I did all of those.
There you go.
Because
Yeah.
I'm 32. So I mean, you have I had Barney, and then I never got into the Teletubbies, but Power Rangers for sure. Power
Oh
Rangers was absolutely huge, and then came Pokemon, then came Yu-Gi-Oh, and then
Can't
through
forget
that,
Spider-Man, man. The
um,
animated series. Come on.
yeah. Well, Cartoon Network at the time had Toonami on, so we would
Yeah.
have Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Yu Yu Hakusho, and then
Naruto.
no. I'm before Naruto. Naruto was in the Shogun, the mangas. So we would get the mangas, and Naruto was in that, but they didn't have a cartoon yet. When I was going through it, it was Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, and Yu Yu Hakusho was on Toonami. That
Yeah,
was
my
like
son
their
doesn't
thing.
like bringing up GT. He says that's non-canon. Doesn't exist no more.
Well, GT is non-canon, but it is still really cool. I mean, Super Saiyan
I
4 We
I
don't see
still
that
have them.
any other time. Yeah.
I still have
I
the whole collection on Blu-ray right here, right behind me somewhere.
I like GT a lot, but once you pass the Boo saga, it just the tonality of 4 is a lot different than the Boo saga. So,
Yeah. You know the name of all the magicians, right? Bibbidi, Bobbidi, Boo.
oh yeah, yeah, bibbity bobbity and boo, bibbity bobbity boo. No, Joe, me and you need to do our own Dragon Ball show.
Here we go.
Yep. I love Dragon Ball. I've watched it since the very beginning.
Me
That
too. I've watched it since he landed on the spaceship, like
Yeah.
Superman. Very
Yeah.
similar.
And he was butt naked too, just like Superman.
What was it? What is it? Bat in the Sun Productions. They've done like several, like Goku versus Superman. I got to be honest, Goku smashes Superman every day of the week. It's not even
probably,
Yeah.
close. It's not even close.
probably.
But it's only because of how ridiculous anime characters can power up to. Like at least like DC is like a little bit grounded enough to say, well, this is just how powerful that he can be. Anime just goes, through the roof.
Yeah, man. And just like that My Hero Academia, I mean, like it's insane. Then you have Demon Slayer and all these other
Oh, you're talking about the
characters who get
number,
all
but
powered up.
Ted's their number one fan.
Of what?
No, he binged the whole season because he had an interview, and he was up there talking like a pro. I was like, dude, you really watch this freaking show? He's on stage with the main cast, and he's just like pulling out all these terms and phrases. I'm like, Ted, what the heck?
One of the hardest things I've ever had to do. Yeah.
Because it got dropped on you last minute, though. That's the only reason why.
This is
And
true.
you
This is true.
and you had. Well, we're not going to talk about that. But you were feeling you were under the weather.
Yeah. Well, I definitely was because I wasn't I wasn't sleeping at all. Like
Yeah.
staying up doing research. I did not sleep that much for like a week, and yeah, it was difficult, but we got through it.
And we still got
Uh,
hammered the night before.
abs-
Is that when
and
Maddie was doing the karaoke?
No, no, that
was
was a
it
different time.
different
Yeah.
time?
Different time for sure.
It was at
David,
Ted's brother's house. I think it's when I need to see the video of that. So
brother-in-law.
I want to see Maddie doing some karaoke, man.
Somebody has
California
it. I
love.
don't know who it is.
California
David
love.
says you guys convinced me not to watch Willow. Shaking my
Oh
head.
man, don't watch it, bro.
Yeah,
Don't do it.
it's not worth it. No offense to anybody who's a part of it, but everybody's probably has a different idea of what it is what it was going to be, and it's too much different than
Take
what your
everything that you
expectations
wanted
are.
Willow to be and just flush it down the toilet and think of the most horrendous remake that they could ever conspire to build, and they put it up there on the screen. That's what Disney
Well,
did.
and what it is, it's a deathbed regret. It's one of those things when you're on your last breath and last words, and your family says, "Is there anything you wish you would have done different?" You would have said, "I wish I wouldn't have watched Willow."
Yeah.
And so don't even put yourself through that. You got a beautiful family, David. You're grinding. You got your Patreon running. You have Star
Spend
Wars
your
stuff.
time elsewhere.
Yeah, dude. Just grind on something positive.
There you go. Absolutely. Let's see here. That'll do it for this discussion on The Last of Us episode 6. Again, what are your thoughts about it? Let us know your favorite
Man,
parts.
we went
Are
off the
you
rails.
loving this show? Are you getting emotional every single episode? Let
Is
us know in
Teddy
the
crying?
comments, or let us know in the comments. You can always email us on the contact page of our website at
Ted has collected the
www.countdowntothegeeks.com.
tears that he shed from watching The Last
Are
of Us,
you
and he's going to
interrupting
put it
me
on the
while I'm
Patreon
plugging
up
the
for grabs.
website? The website you worked on, I'm plugging the website and you're interrupting me, Joe.
So
I
you can
can't
sell
win.
your tears in a jar.
I can't win. I can't win here.
No,
I am
it's
going to bottle Matthew's tears and we're going to sell it on the website at
but
countdowntothegeeks.com.
it's a tear soaked banana hammock. So I'll ship that out to any fans. But it'll be dry.
Absolutely.
It'll be
Banana
dry when
hammock?
it'll be dry when you receive it, but it will be soaked in my tears.
Hey Ted, man, you got to give this guy a solid, man. K Quinn's just there. You go, man.
Kevin wanted to go ahead and show you the new logo for the Central Michigan team. They are doing a lot of really cool events, especially for the residents of the Michigan area who have been impacted by the recent mass shooting up there. So if you want more information on what they're doing, and they're also, I believe, selling these patches, go ahead and take a look at the Central Michigan Ghostbusters on social media.
And it's important after the shooting at the MSU campus. I think that's why they're pushing that so hard.
Yeah,
And I'm gonna get with Kevin after this to tell him, hey, if you grinded as hard as you do on this type of stuff, you could be a freaking billionaire. Okay. I'm just gonna point you to some other avenues because Kevin is a grinder. He's a hustler. He's like, hey, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget. That's like he would be excellent. No, he would be excellent in sales. Excellent in sales.
Hey, so
absolutely.
I just came up with an idea since you bought the Ghostbuster stuff for a design for Maddie. You
What's
seen
that?
you seen the Buddy Christ Jane Silent Bob?
Yeah.
Dude, put freaking Maddie in his Ghostbuster outfit with his proton pack pointing his finger and have the goggles on with his beard. Dude, that's a shirt right there.
That's a tank. That's a beach tank. That's what that is.
Dude, I have been working on my arms. I don't know if you can see my biceps, but I've been doing some curls. Obviously, I don't want to like embarrass anybody, but my arms are looking good. You know what I'm saying?
Get it right for
Check
Cancun.
Absolutely.
check out my OnlyFans.
Uh, Show's running a little long, but I wanted to give everybody heads up notice that March 4th and 5th, coming to the new Braunfels Convention Center, the Hill Country Comic Con, which features the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles animated reunion. All of the voice actors, the main voice actors who are part of that show, including the legendary Rob Paulson, will be in attendance. If you're in the Central or South Texas area, you definitely want to go check out this event March 4th and 5th. And just about our entire team are going to be on site. Most of us, at least, will be on site, and then a few of our friends as well. So I suggest you hit it up. We're going to be there. It should be a great time. It's not a massive convention. It's a little bit more condensed, but that's a solid lineup right there. So highly recommend you check it out. And we're also going to be promoting more events coming up very soon. To hear those, stay tuned each and every week to the Countdown City Geeks. And also later on this week, check out our Ghost Head radio stream with me and Maddie. And then also the WrestleCast this week will be recapping uh, WWE Elimination Chamber. Awesome.
Also, my
Any,
birthday is March 5th, so if you don't make it to the Hill Country Comic Con, celebrate for me. It's my birthday, March 5th.
we need to celebrate, so we'll definitely have to do something.
Maybe
We need to get you out there.
maybe I'm gonna have to do a surprise appearance on Sunday.
I
When's your
think so.
birthday, Maddie?
My birthday is on Sunday, March 5th.
March 5th. Mine's on the 28th, so we're March babies.
Oh heck yeah! See, that's why you're so handsome and smart.
Man, you just love Maddie. Maddie could be a used car salesman, dude. He could sell you anything.
Hey, Ted, you
What up?
forgot
What up?
about y'all going to be doing that interview with the artist that worked on the TMNT Ghostbusters comic on Wednesday as well.
We have so many things; it's hard to list them all. So yes, this week on the Ghost Heads Radio, we will have an artist who worked on the Ghostbusters Ninja Turtles crossover comics. I'm really excited about that. Should be a great time. And then Ray and I, or JC, will also be interviewing a producer who wrote the second episode of the final season of Picard. When I say we have a lot of things going on, we have a lot of things going on. We interviewed Todd Stashwick last week. If you haven't seen that interview yet, he has this incredible role on the final season of Picard. Go check that interview out. It's on our Facebook page. Shout out to Jose, General Kenobi's bunker, who interviewed Leilani Shu this past Saturday at Hodgepodge Tastic. We had about half of our team out there, and had a great interview. Jose conducted it, and we hung out with the 501st crew here in San Antonio. and she was incredible. They had a great conversation. You want to see that interview? Go over to the YouTube page for General Kenobi's Bunker. It's a blast. Awesome. David says, Ted ain't gonna get no sleep. No, I do not. And last but not least, also shout out to my son AJ Nightwing, who he's been on the show before. You hear his voice on the podcast every single episode. He turned 16 this past weekend, and I am all partied out and broke. So we celebrated all weekend long, and it was a blast. And he's a pain, but he's exactly like I was when I was that age, and he's also a bigger geek than I ever was as a teenager.
Shout
So
out to you, AJ. He's a good kid, man. He's a good kid.
No, yeah, but
he's
no, but
fantastic.
he is a pain in the ass. I love him to death. And you got to get him to switch his Facebook birthday because I sent him a birthday a day early. So then I looked like a jerk. So I want that. If we could get that fixed, that'd be incredible. But shout out to AJ. Love you, buddy. We've had some awesome times together. Some we'll never forget, like breaking into John Carlo's autograph booth. Never forget that day. And maybe I look cool to him. I look cool to somebody for once. So that was nice.
You look cool to a lot of people, sir. You look cool to a lot of people. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Kev. We will check out your photos on the Ghost Head Show. Thank you for watching. Be sure to download the podcast if you want to listen to these episodes on the road. Check out the website, countdowncitygeeks.com. For the Geekcast, my name is Ted, aka Steady. Joining me is my partner in crime, Matty B.
Hey, you know what? Instead of crushing a can tonight, I'm going to crush any doubt for all our haters. Countdown City Geeks, baby. Let's go.
The man behind the magic, Joe Garcia.
Yeah, thanks for joining us for this super long episode of the Countdown City Geekcast. And like always, make sure you subscribe, like, share. We do this for you guys, and we appreciate any and all support. Love you guys.
Absolutely. And last but never the least, Retro Ray.
Hey guys, thanks for watching us. Also, keep an eye on our page. I got an interview with the artist that's going to be working on Street Fighter and TMNT crossover as well. So that'll be coming down later on. So get ready. We got more stuff coming. So this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Thanks everybody in the comments. Shout out to Dave, Legacy Nerd, Kevin, Ryan, Jose, Rick, everybody else. Thank you so much. Have a good night. We'll see you next time. Peace.